Clouds are coming in. This is Josh with the morning show on K4CO Radio. I'm sitting here with Sarah Duke. How's it going, Sarah?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to be back in the hot seat.
Yeah.
We've had some amazing guests this week, and we have another amazing one here today.
Yes, we do, because we have always been in that situation. And I was actually about an hour ago, where I just wanted to take my laptop, throw it against the wall, grab a bat, and this guest that we have today actually let us come up and beat some computer monitors, break them and everything like that. It was so fun. It was
really fun.
Everybody's been in that situation with computers where they just really want to go insane. And that's why we have Brett Minzer here of IT1 Services. How's it going, Brett?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
I mean, you rode in on a bike too, huh?
I did.
Nice. It's good weather for it. Gotta love it.
You know, if it's not snowing, I'll ride.
That's a good thing.
Exactly. Well, Brett, you are the owner of IT1Service.com. How is business right now?
Business is wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Everybody needs help.
Everybody does.
It's true. I need that tattooed on my forehead.
Everybody needs help.
I need help all the time. Like, yeah, it's so true. Josh tried to troubleshoot with me earlier today, and I do it for 10 minutes, and I'm done.
So I'm confused as to why you don't buy a block of hours from me. And
you want to walk me through a Google Calendar, how to add a calendar?
Absolutely.
You won't say, really?
This
is why you're calling
I never
me.
say that, and I always recommend never use Google. But
Well, exactly. So I know
doesn't mean I don't do it.
Or maybe this wasn't. It was a Google-ish team up calendar. I don't actually know what team up is. It's probably a good. I
don't even know what team up is.
It's just a good calendar.
Right.
I know.
Keep making shit up. Excuse me.
No,
it is
we're not
frustrating.
FCC. You can definitely
You're
say
definitely
that.
the
Then they make shit
experts.
up.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Oh, yes. But Brett with IT1 Services helps individuals and businesses with all of their IT needs and solutions. And what I do like about you, like you said, hour blocks, you can buy an hour, you can give them as gift cards. So if you have somebody in your, somebody who just keeps bugging you.
Well, you can buy 10 hours.
You can buy 10 hours.
You can buy 10 hours, and you can give them to whomever you like.
Whoever you like.
Yes.
Can you just buy 1 hour, or is 10 the minimum?
You can buy 1 hour at $150 an hour all day long.
Perfect.
Twice on Sunday.
And so what is it if you buy 10?
$125.
$125. So there is discounts if you order in bulk.
Discounts. Right. I bill in 15-minute increments instead of 1 hour increments. The blocks last as long as they last, so they never expire, and they bill in 15-minute increments, and you can use them for absolutely anything you want. So if you bought a block and then realized you paid your rent wrong, and you need $500 back, we'll cut you a check. You pay your rent for $500.
And I love how it's not an attorney's hour.
No.
Like 15 minutes is 15 minutes.
Attorneys bill 6 minutes.
6 minute increments.
Yep, 6 minute increments.
Right.
That sounds about right. You know what's really cool? I know you've been doing this a long time, many decades, which is great. You've seen a lot of change. I love hooking other businesses up, and we mention you every time we have someone here. Like we had the auto group in here, and they're like, "Oh, of course we know Brett." Then we had Harold with the Hitch Corner. He's like, "Of course we know Brett." I'm like,
we had mortgage people in here. Yeah, we know Brett.
I know. It's like you just know everyone. It's pretty cool that you're out there. Yeah,
you've been around the block.
Your stuff. Well, in a good way.
A couple of times.
in a good way, in a healthy way. I'm having flashbacks from a terrible moment. But no, and I hear the same thing actually, is that you really know your stuff.
Yeah.
Like
that is a common thread.
It really is. Like he knows exactly what he's talking about, which is every industry can get a bad rap, but this one does, because someone comes out of the woodwork.
Almost as bad as just car dealers.
You have really good and bad and across any industry, but it's good to hear you know your stuff.
Right.
I do, and my techs are knowledgeable and capable. Some are a bit slower, but that's just age and time.
That's true. As long as they get to the finish line, it's not always a race.
I worked for a company once, and they said I was slow, and I looked at them and I went, okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
And time is definitely there, because you started out before computers were even commonplace in our houses and everything. I mean,
they didn't have computers in houses.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
they had computers in large buildings with lots and lots of air conditioning.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it would get really hot.
Exactly. And you help out your customers face to face. You can also help them out remotely.
Correct.
So how would you help out your customers remotely? What do you do for that?
They would call me. I can either send them a link. We can take over their computer, Mac or PC. We can take over their phone. We can take over their camera. So if they have an issue with the blue screen of death, or it's something that we can't remote into, we can remote in, just take over their camera lens
Right.
on the thing, and they can point their camera at it, and we can see what's going on and tell them what to do.
I know you work on pretty much everything.
I haven't had to work on mainframes in a few years,
Okay.
but
I am curious. I know everyone has a different problem. What do you think is the most common request when they're calling you?
why can't I print, and why did the internet go down?
Why did the internet go down?
Oh yeah,
And what do
Okay.
you say to them with that?
it's usually the bandwidth provider.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
20 minutes, it'll come back.
I know. I'm like, okay. You know what? I don't feel so bad about my little mishap today. My internet, you'd be getting a lot of calls from me if I called you every time my internet went down.
Well, that's why you get a wireless access point and you keep it there.
Right.
Yeah.
But you do not call it a WAP.
Don't call it a
WAP.
okay.
Wireless access point. All right. No,
Okay.
no WAPs
Apparently,
allowed.
there was a song,
Oh.
and I walked into a client and I said, "So you need 3 WAPs?" And he looked at me and he went, "No,
You have to define them.
no, I do not. I'll let you look them up."
Okay. Speaking of acronyms, I wanted to get into the weeds a little bit.
Sure.
Because you are so educated. So for a networking infrastructure, I'm reading this for those people that aren't, hey, we should launch into that. If you want to see our pretty little faces, you can see us on Facebook and Instagram, K4CO_
And LinkedIn.
radio. Yes, and on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and we're all over the place. So
Yeah.
if you're listening on the app, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, and you can always type in the comments if you have any questions, anything like that, and then our producer Sabino will throw us those questions that we can ask him. But go ahead on yours, because
That is true. Well,
you're
speaking
reading
of-
something. in
Yes, I'm reading
particular.
something. So this are a bunch of acronyms, and you have to dumb it down because this is me.
I don't ever try to geek if I can help it.
Okay, I appreciate it because I know
I'm fairly good at turning geek into English.
it's
I like
good.
it.
I read your website and I'm like, what? So I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
So for a networking infrastructure, what's the difference between peer-to-peer, client server, local area network, or a LAN,
LAN.
okay, and wide area network WAN?
Okay. So let's see. The first one was a peer-to-peer network.
Yes.
So if you have 2 windows or 2 workstations that are connected with a wire, or 3 or 4, and they're all connected just between the 2 computers or between the 4,
Okay.
but they're not, and they're sharing data between the 2 or between those 4, that's a peer-to-peer.
And that has to physically have a wire? That can't be wireless.
It can be wireless.
Okay.
They connect and they share data on each other's machines.
Got it. Okay.
So they don't share anything in the cloud, they share something locally.
Okay.
What was
Then
the next one?
a client server
A client and
is a
server.
person.
That's a client, that's a client, this is a client.
Any electronic
And
device
any
can be a
network,
client.
any device that can be networked in and can read data.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
Oh, that's pretty easy.
a server is just a really big computer.
Okay.
And it has
So
different
amazing.
operating system that can perform different functions. And if you have applications that need a server, large accounting solutions, large HR solutions, things like that, then you typically need a server. We're going to put together an environment for a client who has 7 machines in 4 states, and they have 200 terabytes of information on a network attached storage device in Denver.
Wow.
So trying to get information from that over the internet when they're 3 terabyte files, it takes hours. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up an environment in Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud. We're going to put a virtual server with a virtual firewall, and then they have virtual workstations where you can create one workstation, but multiple people can log in as if it were different workstations. So it's less expensive. And then they can access, that's a network. So it's a
Right, okay.
LAN. It's a local area network, but it's self-contained.
Okay.
So all the data will be uploaded to that. The 200 terabytes will be uploaded to that and stored there. And then they'll log into a workstation and be acting in real time with all the data,
Okay.
even though they're in Texas or New Mexico or Arizona or Colorado.
In layman's terms, just so people like me can understand how much data that actually is,
Sure.
how many phones of data would that be? Is that hundreds of phones? Is that thousands of phones?
That would probably be millions of phones.
Okay.
But so if you have a document, a Word document
Okay.
that has 10 pages on it, that's usually about 30K, 30,000 bytes.
Okay.
A byte, 1,000 bytes is a kilobyte. 1,000 kilobytes is a megabyte. 1,000 megabytes is a gigabyte.
Yeah.
1,000 gigabytes is a terabyte. So you figure if you have 200 terabytes, that would be 200,000 gigabytes or 2 million kilobytes. So if a document is 10, how many millions can you have?
Yeah, that's a
That'd
lot
be
of
10
data.
million. That'd be 2 million.
Okay.
So you have 2
You're really
million
good at
documents.
math.
You know, believe it or not, my father taught me that.
Oh, well, you retained it, so something's going on upstairs, which is a good thing.
And unfortunately, the memory isn't, but you can do math.
Oh, that's kudos to you. Okay, and then so the local area network.
Is a combination of computers or devices connected either wirelessly or wired. So that computer, this computer, whatever computers you have in here, they're all connected via a switch
Okay.
or via a wireless access point that's connected to a switch. Those are all within a LAN, local area network.
Okay, so my brain is now saying so peer to peer and the LAN is about the same thing.
So a peer-to-peer network says we share the data between two computers, two or more computers.
Okay.
That's peer-to-peer.
Okay, right.
If we're on a local area network, that is a definition of two or more computers accessing centralized information.
Okay.
So it can be on a network attached storage device, it can be in the cloud, it can be just accessing the internet.
Okay, a little overlap in my brain. Okay.
Well, there's a little overlap.
Okay, and wide area network.
Wide area network is
just a bigger-
outside of a LAN.
Okay,
So
just bigger, more people,
Um,
bigger network. Just
the
say
internet,
yes, Brett.
The internet is a WAN.
The internet is a WAN.
That's a big WAN.
Yeah, it is. But it's a WAN made up of millions of LANs.
Okay.
That's
Right.
the cloud.
Yeah.
There's lots of servers and their own networks.
My mom doesn't own a computer.
Smart lady.
Ooh, I like that. Thank you. I will use that next time. That's usually not my response. When she says like it goes into the cloud, it's so funny to watch her just be like, where does it go? Do you ever have people get a little nervous about things floating up in space where you can't see it?
Yes, I tell them to watch AI.
Okay.
Watch the movie.
AI?
Yeah, AI and one of 1,000 ones where the guy just disintegrates and goes off into, whatever.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Actually, I had a whole series in my head about AI questions.
Sure.
We talked about it today, how it's truly revolutionizing the world. I think it is. So I'll tell you on my side of things.
Sure.
So I work for a nonprofit with pediatric cancer research. And in a very short couple months, it's pretty amazing to watch that you can actually see a cell in a 3D world and look at the tissues. And so they're coming up with very innovative processes, at least in that industry. How is it, and we talked about this a little bit last time, but I was curious, it's been a little while.
To have a computer or a program do your work for you as if it were smarter than you or had some level of sentience is, to me, stupid. It's the same as the lawyer who wrote for Liddell, who owned My Pillow.
Okay.
They did a brief to the judge, and they did it all in AI, and it
Okay.
was horrendous.
What if you use AI with a person?
They did. And it
Okay.
was horrendous.
Can it ever be not horrendous? Are there
Can
moments
it
in the
ever be? Sure.
Okay.
But it's like I heard one guy speak about it, and he said, "Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread." And he said, "I don't have to look through all of my hundreds of emails a day. It will summarize them for me." And that's great. And he said, "I can get more work done." I said, "Yes, except the work you're supposed to do, which is read the emails."
Right.
So if you choose not to read half of them because you let some other program decide that they don't rate, then you're not doing your job. I saw another ad where AI took, I think it was a bullet list, and made a presentation out of it in like 30 seconds, according to the, which is not true, but that's okay. It's TV. And I agree. I think that's wonderful. We should all let the people who don't do their work and don't prepare and don't show up and don't know how they're doing stuff just make it look pretty. And then everybody gets to go, "Ooh, you're smart." And we should give you a raise until they have to actually do something that matters. And then they can't do it because they've let something else do it for them and it doesn't work well.
What is interesting is on my, I'm not going to tell you the server because you don't like my servers.
I don't dislike any sort of.
I have
like
lots of
Mary
different.
and Bob and Joe.
Don't forget Jack.
I have a Yahoo account, Yahoo email,
Sure.
and I never said sure go summarize. It's already on there.
Right.
So when I open my email now, it automatically puts the 3 or 4 bullet points, and it, to be the devil's advocate, it has been pretty accurate so far. I mean, my emails are a paragraph, but it is kind of nice to be like, oh, good, my kiddo's teacher emailed today, and I can summarize in about 5 seconds. This is a bad email. So it just to throw that out there. I know you don't
I'm
like
not
it,
debating that it can be used. I'm not debating that
it can be a useful
that it
tool.
can be used
I think.
effectively. But using it to do your work
I agree. It can be, yeah.
is if you don't want to do the work, don't do that job.
Okay, if your job was to, I'm going to play the devil's
Pick a job.
advocate today.
Sure.
If your job is to smash a television,
Yes.
and you can use your hand or you can use a hammer, because a hammer is a tool, your hand is a tool, which one would you use?
I use a tool.
Okay. So,
Go ahead.
in this scenario, can AI be a tool to help you use alongside of your very capable
If it
brain?
were competent, sure.
Well, and
The problem
sometimes
is it's
and I
not
get
competent.
it. And sometimes humans aren't competent. I
I
mean,
agree.
so I mean, I think it can be a useful tool in a lot of situations.
And
so
for certain things, it can be useful. In cancer research, if it's able to more accurately delineate or show a cell as it's being destroyed or created or whatever, great. But what happens when it's not accurate?
Oh, I agree.
So let's say big research person, guy, girl, whatever, sees the cell and goes, "Oh my God, look at that. That's the answer. That's the cure for cancer." And that's the base. That's the bottom of the triangle for which she moves forward or he moves forward into their research. And they've tested it. It's correct. And 2 years later they find out, oh well, not correct. It was, a misprogram.
Well, and I think humans can do it too.
Oh,
That
yeah.
we
I
go
don't
on
debate they can't,
a
but
tangent
taking
of, yeah.
taking a scientific method and using the human brain is much more capable than any technology.
I agree. All these cars that are driving hands-free, they freak the heck out of me. They really do.
I think hands-free driving is wonderful.
I hate it.
Oh no, I think it's absolutely wonderful.
You are contradicting yourself hardcore
No,
right now.
you know why?
You are trusting a machine.
I didn't say I trusted it. I said I think it's wonderful. There's a difference.
So
You want the other side of why it's wonderful?
Sure. Give
Ever
it to
heard of
us.
the Darwin Awards?
Oh, I
jeez.
love the Darwin Awards.
Oh God.
Wonderful.
I love the rabbit hole that we're
everybody
going
who
down.
lets somebody drive them around on their car. Great. Please knock yourself out. You'll kill yourself. You'll kill a couple of others, and we won't have to worry about you or your progeny ever again.
And everyone that they've now killed, which are very innocent bystanders.
I'm not saying that it's a great thing, but you know what? If you're gonna do it, there you go.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, no filters.
No, I think we're gloves are off. It does scare me. I've been in a car 2 times. My girlfriend, when I was in Texas, did it, and it was just released. This was years and years and years ago. And getting on the highway is when she did it on the on ramp. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And then I was recently, the last month or so, I think maybe on the highway again, hands off. And I'm like, this is not okay with me. I don't
Keep in
want
mind,
to
though,
be
in
the
100
car.
years, it might be the norm and be
Maybe.
great
And
technology.
if the technology works consistently, you know, what was that movie with
Uh-oh.
Cruise?
Tom
Minority
Cruise?
Report.
Yeah, where all the cars are Audis, and you know,
I don't know. I'm like you. It's with AI and machinery and airplanes that can fly, and that's been around for a long, long time.
there's a
But-
book out there by Heinlein. It was written in the '60s called Friday, and it posits that at some point you have intercontinental flights. So instead of a flight going up 50,000 foot in the air, 40,000 foot, and flying across the earth, it goes all the way up, pauses, and as the earth spins, shoots down. Okay? And its point is there's absolutely no way that a human can create enough information flow in their brain or act quickly enough to save it if something's wrong, either in the up or the down. So you have to have a computer to do it in some way.
Okay.
But there'll still be a pilot because no passenger will get on a plane or a subsonic thing that goes around the earth without some other human being in charge who's apparently capable of at least warning them you're going to die soon.
You
Okay.
need that warning.
I'm ready. Bring on the shark. Well, and I do have, okay, I'm going to one less devil's advocate and then I'll turn it over to you. So, what you're saying about AI, I promise I love you. I like poking the bear sometimes.
I have no issue with it.
I
I'll
know,
talk
that's-
about anything.
that's why I
I'll talk
can-
about
I
stuff
can
you
do
guys
this.
don't want to talk about.
We're going to stay kind of on topic.
Yeah.
Well, what you're saying right now about AI is probably what people were saying about when they first discovered a computer. They thought you are taking over a human brain, and there was a lot of fear, apprehension. Oh my gosh, how can we program
No,
something
because
to
a
do?
computer is effectively a calculator.
Okay, then we can go back to, well, it's still a machine that is doing a person's job. You're programming like what a brain would do into a machine. It's similar to AI. It's not exactly the same. But every time we have advancements and across the world, there's always some fear of it. The internet was another great example. You have to look, it's true. I remember all the pros and cons of it. People were really
I
scared.
remember when it didn't exist.
You know, well, of course, it wasn't that, I know people,
Those were the good old days.
they were, I know, before the .com era. So, you know,
I'm not saying it doesn't have its uses,
okay.
Yeah.
but as used as prevalently and in ways that it's being used,
How about
I
Chat
don't agree.
GPT?
Again, I'm not a big fan. If you want to learn to write, learn to write. If you want to learn to ask something else to write for you, then when it can't write English well and uses the wrong
True, it does. It makes
nouns,
mistakes.
pronouns, adverbs, and adjectives in the wrong places, or creates a picture for you with 7 fingers, then there you go.
I would really enjoy that, actually. Nothing is perfect, and sometimes I wish I could rely more on something else than my brain through the day.
Well,
But
I would rather take the time and make sure something is correct
right. Oh, I agree.
than try to do something slapstick or slap together, and use a tool that's doesn't work consistently.
I agree.
If when you talk about a computer or technology that's been in place for 100 years, 70 years, whatever, and this was 1925, Babbage machines were out, but let's just say 1960 for one of the first mainframes. But spreadsheets were fairly straightforward technology. It was simple math, simple algebra. And it was just programming algebra, and you put in numerals and you got responses. And that's what technology has done for us. And all the other it is just doing more repetitious calculations, and then learning from itself and creating even more calculations. But even at its height, it can't compare to the brain.
I agree. I mean, there's always checks and balances with it. And I agree, even writing, a full-fledged, we didn't have AI growing up. I'd go to the library and
Had to do work.
do my own research, and I'd write my paper, and I still would check it and double check. I still do it today before I send an email. I'm like, because I make
You may, but most people these days don't.
I
They
do.
say, "Oh, look, it writes it for me." They don't proofread it. They don't see what's going on. I occasionally will talk into my phone to send a text, and when I turn off the mic, the words change.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will have said what I wanted. It will have transcribed what I said, and it'll be just fine. I'll look at it. I'll check it. I'll turn off the mic, and I'll hit send. And after I turn off the mic, it changes at least 6 words to something else that is relatively insulting to somebody.
Because it knows what you want to say.
Exactly. This is what he's really thinking.
It is.
So, I know. All right, Josh, you're up. I'm down with the rabbit hole.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean,
Done with it.
my only thing with artificial intelligence, personally, just, I'm a musician. We've even had some songs submitted here that are AI, and they're not going on our station. And I think when it comes to the creative process, a computer just won't be able to cut it. It can't have that emotion. It can't, like marketing, writing a song, writing a movie, directing, all of that stuff. It's a different type of thing. Numbers, all that
I think
fun
it's,
stuff.
what is that, left brain?
Left brain
is
Brain is
artistic.
numbers.
is no,
No,
right brain
right
is
brain.
Right brain
artistic.
is artistic.
Yeah.
And it's great that it's got all the left brain, but
You need
would
the
I
right
want
brain.
left brain cooking my dinner? No.
No, exactly.
That's why I can't cook.
All left
Because you're
brain.
left brain.
I have no right. I have nothing right.
Nothing
brain.
right
But I
brain.
can't do technology. I'm just a mush brain. Just saying.
Well, speaking of technology, I did have a couple questions though for you. So, you're a big fan of hotspots. Okay.
I'm a big fan of secured bandwidth.
Right. Exactly. So not using public Wi-Fi is not.
We actually now have and support a portable firewall.
A portable firewall.
Yep. But it's within your control. So it's posed on an iPhone as a VPN, but it's effectively a firewall because all traffic runs through it. It's checked in all the ways that a firewall checks data, so it slows down traffic because it's checking everything. But it allows you to determine what's going to come through and what's not. So if you have a firewall and you get on public Wi-Fi and something tries to come through, or you try to access something that's not allowed, it'll say, sorry, can't do that, but you can send a text and I can allow that.
Right.
So it's an effective tool that you choose, that you control.
Right.
And doing things like NordVPN, all that's choosing is let somebody else do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Gotcha. Is there a difference between doing information via data or Wi-Fi? So if you're out with your phone or your tablet or anything like that, and you're actually using the data instead of a Wi-Fi signal, is there a difference between that?
I don't know what you mean by
So
Like cellular data.
like cellular
if
data.
you're turning off
So
Wi-Fi.
that's a network that you have purchased, and it is supposedly subservient to you. It only lets traffic that you want on your device.
Okay.
So it's not a firewall per se. It's behind some firewalls, but I don't have access to their stuff, so I can't talk about that. But it is more secure than public Wi-Fi or public internet.
Would using your phone as a hotspot, in your opinion, be more secure than like a public Wi-Fi network?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Why is that?
Because it's a network that you control.
Okay.
You get to say, I'm the only one on this network.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes sense right there. Question I had, and I've actually experienced this a lot, and a lot of people. This is one of the biggest issues that I think of in a house or an office or something like that. The dead spots, and no one knows except I'm sure you do. Covering those dead spots, there's something like repeaters, or something like extenders. There's what is the best way?
So it depends what's creating the dead spot. If you have a house with a ton of brick in it, that's going to create more dead spots than if you have a place with a lot of wood.
Wood, drywall,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
because it impedes the signal.
Okay.
Okay, it's like running water through.
We're still here, ladies and
I'm,
gentlemen.
I'm trying to
Brett
think
is
of a
contemplating
word. No, I'm
water
trying to think of a
through-
word. A large mesh. So if you run water through a large mesh, then the water just flows through. If you run that same water through cheesecloth, it fills it up and goes at a slower rate.
Right.
So
Okay.
Gotcha.
Brick is a harder medium to pass through.
yeah.
Okay.
So is there really a way, say you do have a larger house, a lot of different rooms, so you have your signal coming in, your Wi-Fi, everything from this one room, but it's not getting to the other side of the
So
house.
you can do it one of two ways. You can either get an incredibly powerful access point that just has a ton of power and a ton of signal that will punch through that,
Mm-hmm.
or you can get devices that are called meshed, where you have multiple devices that carry it out and they're all on the same network.
Okay.
So you'll buy an Asus device with 2 or 3 little towers,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll connect one, you'll connect the other 2 all right in front of you, and then you'll unplug the 2 and go plug them in a little further away, and then another one a little further away, so that you can cover different areas.
Is there one that you find better access points or mesh?
Netgear, Asus,
I mean, between either an access point or using a mesh, or is mesh a series of access points?
it's a series of access points.
Okay. Gotcha.
And they can be configured in different ways.
Okay. Okay.
They're all routers. I mean,
Right.
we had a client who we set up, and everything was fine, and then his mesh died.
Mm-hmm.
So he had 3 of them, and it basically has to have a green light, and it stopped. And one had a green light, and the other 2 were red. And he said, "Oh, but I can see I'm on Wi-Fi." Yes, but you're on the other end of the only Wi-Fi that's downstairs in the basement, so you're getting very little signal, which is why you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And then, so.
It's funny. Earlier, you said one of the biggest calls that you get and stuff like that is either your internet is not working, which is hilarious to me because you can't really fix that. 2, though, is printers, which I love it because I hate printers because they don't connect, they don't work, and suddenly it's just like, oh, it was working fine the other day, and suddenly it's not working anymore.
So brothers tend to work more consistently on a network and don't get messed up by Windows updates.
Okay.
Epsons and HPs tend to get messed up by Windows updates. So what happens is they create a special port, a special place to send the information to that's in the printer. The problem is that if Windows doesn't update, it could change that
Right.
by dint of some programmer in some country that decided, oh, that's a good idea. And some guy in somewhere else didn't check it well enough, and you got millions of lines of code, so it happens. So what we typically do is when they're connected, when a printer's connected wirelessly, it gets what's called an IP address.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as just an address,
Right.
like the address here, the address anywhere. And what we do is we set computers to point to that address.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even with Windows Update, it will take it off that address and put it on its own special something, and then we'll just go in and put it back, and then it works fine.
So the majority of the time, you're saying it's probably updates that occur.
A lot of times it's updates. Sometimes the printers just go offline and don't, the Bluetooth or the wireless stops working.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends. A lot of people say, well, I can print from my phone, but I can't print from my computer.
Right.
Well, it's because one is using a certain protocol and the other's not.
Right.
So,
Gotcha. And I've heard, I've heard that when it comes to printers and different accessories, different devices, that you should use the 2.4G Wi-Fi when connecting stuff,
so
as opposed to the 5.
2.4 is basically less bandwidth, longer distance.
Okay.
And for older devices, like older TVs, older printers, older Google or Amazon devices, okay, or Alexa devices. 5 is shorter distance, more bandwidth,
Okay.
so faster speeds.
Gotcha.
Most of the current devices will find 5 gigahertz bandwidth, so you should use that if it can see it. But it depends, because if you have like cameras only typically see 2.4 gigahertz.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So like security system cameras or.
Well, not inexpensive ones.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So will the 2.4 eventually go away, is what you're saying? And if you can, if your printer or accessory that says use a 2.4, if they can see a 5, go ahead and use the 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and eventually 2.4 will go away, just like other things have gone away.
Right.
Wi-Fi 6 has been out, but not incredibly used. Wi-Fi 7 is coming out, or been out, and is not used at all.
I've never even heard of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we came out, TCP/IP is just, IP is called IPv4 version 4.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out with IP version 6 maybe 15 or 20 years ago. And the purpose of it was to switch over because we were running out of addresses. So IPv4 is 255 numbers in 4 places, 4 octets. And that's a lot of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are inside and outside. And, some geeks got together and said, oh my God, we're going to run out. We got to come out with a new thing. And they came up with IPv6, and it's been being implemented for the last 20 plus years. And it's still not.
It's still not where, yeah.
It's IPv4 across the board. So, what people say is, oh, it's going to be it's going to whatever. Wait and see.
Right. Right. Well, eventually, yeah. I mean, it'll just evolve into something real big.
Well, eventually they'll run out of network cards that only support 2.4, and they'll start putting the 5s in there into really cheap cameras, or really cheap this, or really cheap that. If no, I'm not supposed to discuss that.
If there are enough social security numbers, there's enough IP addresses.
You would think.
I'm just throwing that out there. All of
And
this
there's
is
only 9 numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is infinitely longer, which I don't understand.
Well, because there's infinitely more devices than people.
True. And with that being said, okay, I'm a novice, I'm sorry. So I've had, call it 7 phones in my life.
Sure.
And now I have 1, and all of them have gone to phone heaven or destroyed or wherever they go. And they recycle those, is what I'm told. Doesn't that no longer have an IP address? Isn't it wiped?
IP addresses are given to, you're thinking of MAC address. So IP addresses are given by a router to a device that's active.
Okay.
What you're talking about is what's called a MAC address, and that's a machine
Okay.
address code or access code. I can't remember the A. But it's a hard-coded 12-character number that uses letters and numbers in hex. And that every device has one. So your monitor, not your monitor, your computer, your phone, your tablet, anything that connects to a network or connects to any kind of communications platform has a MAC address. And it used to be a way in which they secured things until they found out how to spoof MAC addresses, and that became a non.
So when sites go down, When a website goes down and it's deleted, that IP address no longer exists. Is that a correct statement?
No.
Okay, cool.
The IP address is issued by the internet service provider.
Okay.
So if your IP address is 1.1.1.1 for that website and you cancel that, they will turn around and give that 1.1.1.1 to somebody else.
Well, okay, so they're recycling and reusing. I would just think that if there's infinity amount of numbers, so that's why I'm trying to wrap my brain around how you could ever run out of addresses.
How many devices do you actually have in your house and in your
Define device. Are you talking
any
about
device
TVs?
that connect TV, Alexa,
Tablet,
Google, tablets,
cell
phones.
security cameras, if they do.
I'm gonna ballpark. I'm gonna say 10 to 10.
I'm guessing probably more. I think last time
I have 30.
yeah.
You have 30?
So,
Really?
yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Last time at my house when I called the service provider, they said I had 26 things connected.
Wow.
So
Maybe you have a lot more than I'm thinking.
Well, and that's the
Okay.
point is that, in the U.S., we have what, 300 million people in the U.S.?
yeah, give or take.
Yeah. So, if you have 300 million,
times 30, roughly,
that's-
per person.
that's 9 billion devices.
There are more than 9 billion numbers and letters. And just keep going.
There can be. It depends. It depends what you use to create those number schemes.
Cool. Can it eliminate numbers and letters and start doing emojis?
And emojis are numbers.
That would be really cool if my IP address was like smiley face, heart, poop, smiley face.
I'm trying to think what that actually means.
I'm
I
sorry.
was originally told certain emojis had very specific meanings,
Of course they do. That's
then
why
I was told-
I
and then
kept
I-
it very PC.
and I was told what a specific emoji meant, and I thought, oh, okay, I can do that. And I was talking to somebody else. They said, no, it doesn't mean that.
I want to be the first IP emoji, just smiley face. That's going to be my new IP address. Make it happen. Can you do that?
Sure,
Really?
sure.
Okay.
Go get the domain mysmileyface.com.
Okay.
I'll assign an IP address to it, and that's your website.
That'll be a smiley face. Okay, cool.
An emoji is still just zeros and ones, right? A combination of
An emoji is combinations of typed characters.
typed characters.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Colon, close parentheses, is smiley face.
Oh, I thought. Okay, never mind. I do know that.
I love it.
All
Okay.
emojis are just characters.
Okay. Well, I wanted to get in, and we talked a little bit about this last time, but for password protection, I have people that believe in one master password. I would be the person that would forget it.
Yeah,
So a lot of these times they create the and a lot doesn't really matter.
So I use a product called RoboForm. I think it's $20 a year, and it goes across all my devices. I have one master password that mine's like 20 some odd characters long, and it's a passphrase that I won't forget. And in that, I retain all the passwords to all of my accounts, client accounts, whatever I've set up. And if I forget that, I have a backup email that goes to someone else that I can recover that. But originally, it didn't even have the ability to recover. If you lost that, if you forgot the password, delete the account.
So when you say someone else, is that legitly another person, or is this straight
No, it's like
back
your
to
attorney.
to
No, it's
you?
like your attorney.
Oh, okay. Because you can create multiple,
Yeah, but,
pathways that come back to you.
yeah, but that's the whole point of it is that if the purpose is if you're dead, or if you're unavailable for conversation,
You're in a hands-free car. You get your brain
And-
gets
and you're
damaged,
done,
and
yeah.
yeah.
and you're in there and somebody has to go through and help arrange your stuff or figure out what you've got, that in your documentation says, here's the password. If that doesn't work, here's the backup account.
Do you recommend that across the board?
Always.
Always? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there
Nobody-
was ever a
you should
scenario.
always have a will, have those things that protect you, that look, when I was young, I didn't have a will and I didn't set money aside and I wasn't fiscally anything, and all those things. So I recommend those things highly to people who I was watching a movie. You ever seen The Beekeeper?
I have not.
Oh, you gotta watch The Beekeeper.
All right.
Funny
Okay.
movie.
I like adding things I need to watch.
Jason Statham, right?
Statham, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's on
And
my
at
list.
one point, he's harassing the bad guy, and he says, "Do you have an estate plan?" He goes, "I'm 28. What do I need that for?"
Well, true. I mean, I
But
didn't think
you
about it. 20.
absolutely. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
think about it at 18.
Yeah.
But had I at 18 had taken $50 a month and stuck it in an account, I'd have
True.
$4 or $5 million now.
For
Right.
the-
But
for-
I
yeah.
don't think about it. Didn't think about it then, and you don't think about it until later, or if somebody beats you about the head and shoulders and lets you. So yeah, I'm a big fan of preparation.
For the protection side of the password security specifically, so let's say I have a different passwords, and so to log on to my Gmail account, I know you love that, is 10 characters.
Okay.
But then the master password also has 10. Is one easier to hack? Is one
It
less?
depends what the password is. So if you
Okay.
use a password that is a series of disjointed characters, X, Y, percent sign, question mark, kind of thing, those are actually relatively straightforward to hack with a password hacker. That if you decide you want to figure out how to get onto the dark web, you can download and crack people's passwords. And those passwords can be broken relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Passphrases less quickly. It might take weeks instead of minutes. It's still crackable, and it depends on who's doing it with how much power and how much capability. If I remember watching a TV show and somebody said, "Well, here I'll just throw 2 gigs of RAM at that." Well, unless you're going to sharpen them up and stick them in their throat, you're not going to really do much. But it's a good thought. It's a good term.
And I find it very fascinating because we've gone through all of these things where it's just like, okay, your password has to be so long. Then they switch it to, no, it has to have a number. Then it switches to, it has to have a number and then some type of special character. And you're basically saying it doesn't really matter.
I'm saying it has to have a combination of things that a machine can't figure out easily.
Okay.
And a machine does not do Boolean searches for things that have a meaning.
Like I really want to go live in Africa amongst a bunch of animals.
And if you can remember that particular passphrase, you are better than I am.
So, but that's what you're meaning, like a
Yes.
full, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, I find it very interesting too. And then there's a lot of these different, like you said, you use RoboForm. There's 1Password. There's tons of them.
Tons of them.
But you highly do recommend using something like that. And because there's a lot of debate right there where I know people who's just like, I have all my passwords written down on a piece of paper if I need them. I have them in my phone in a little notes thing.
Clients who do that all the time.
But you recommend something like 1Password RoboForm where
Let's say you have that book and it's sitting next to your computer and somebody breaks into your house and they take that book.
let's say RoboForm just goes out of business or gets hacked.
So they haven't been hacked yet.
Okay.
The passwords are fairly heavily encrypted, and if you if you try to access the password, and at a certain amount of times, it will simply lock the account, and then you have to go to the reset. It used to just kill the account.
Now it'll just lock you out, and then there's a protocol as to getting it back.
Correct.
Gotcha.
But they had to do that because so many people forgot their passwords and locked themselves out.
No, I think a lot of it when it comes to something like that, like I would recommend 1Password for you or RoboForm or something like that. But I think a lot of it is just the trust out there in a different company, a different, site, something having all your passwords. So how do you get rid of that distrust in people?
You can't. People are people.
Right.
You can't. You can give them an alternative. Remember them all.
It's really hard.
It's incredibly hard, and as the requirements for accessing the data we want to access grows, it challenges our mind to be able to do that. 1,000 years ago, the Druids, and the Indians, and the Irish and the Scottish, they passed down their histories through telling stories, and they memorized these stories as small kids, and stories didn't change, and they weren't like our facts today, where we just get to make them up and say they're facts. Um, it's a memory, and it's repetitious in that way. Um, I'm Jewish, and it's the way of Passover. So to bring up and remember each step and how and why, and to teach those things, and people don't teach that anymore. So you have a choice. You can either remember it or write it down, and you can either write it down on a piece of paper or digitally.
Right.
And if you write it down digitally in a spreadsheet on your computer, that's great, except if you're not in front of your computer.
Right.
Then what do you do? So that's where password tools like that work.
Okay. And to Josh's point, I mean, if it's written down in notes, because your computer phone is still locked.
As much as any device is, yeah.
So, I mean, it's, I just know people that are all over the board with how they write it down or try and remember.
I have people put spreadsheets on their phones, and then, but I can see it on Google. Yes, but Google's the most insecure platform. So putting your list of passwords on there is probably not a great idea.
Okay.
2 to 3 factor identification, or
Two-factor. So they have two-factor, 2FA or MFA, and now they're doing another form factor that you're going to start seeing.
and what's this one?
What do they call it? Passkeys.
Pass keys.
So when you log in, instead of getting a
Text message or email.
you're going to get a QR code that you're going to scan. Then you go ahead and you scan it, and you click on the link, and then you put in your code that's on your other thing.
It's going to take you 5 minutes just to sign into anything.
It does take me five. It does currently take me 5 minutes to sign
I have
into
exactly what he just told at my other location.
At your other job.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yeah, on lots of different devices and I get it though. I mean, if you're dealing with secure data, it's like, no, you have to.
They used to
that.
do radius servers where they issued everybody a little number generator. And that number generator was keyed to you, and it had a MAC address and a serial number, and they would sync that with the program on the server. So you would go to log into, and it would say, "What's your password?" And you'd read this, and it's good for 30 seconds. You'd read that, put your password in, and it would say, "Okay, in this 30 seconds, that username is equal to this password. Yes, it is. Verify." But that got to be very onerous, and people went, "Oh."
I get it.
Especially if it's been a long day and you're a little slower.
Yes.
mean like me after like 7 a.m.
After 7 a.m. All right. Nice. Me, it's probably about 9. So
Mine's 6:30 a.m. Yeah. I'm like, nope.
I don't know. My dog wakes me up at 3:30 in the morning. I hear him scrabbling on
that's
the
brutal.
hardwood floor.
right.
Oh.
Is the 2-factor something that you just think everybody should just accept and do it?
You don't have a choice. If you don't, you're just asking to have your data stolen.
Okay. So at least do 2-factor, accept it, get that going so that you always get that text message, that email or whatever, or the new QR code thing.
The new, yeah. I mean, it's all of it. It's just,
Right.
And it's protecting against people who just want to steal your stuff.
Very true.
Right.
Well, we only have a couple more minutes, but I know you have a couple cool things for sale. I know these are not 3-ring notebooks, ladies and gentlemen. They are different notebooks.
Spiral notebooks.
If you bring the jewelry store, you can put 3 rings on them.
Ooh,
No,
did
I have a bunch of, so we get a bunch of different notebooks and things like that and computers that are older systems, and we put in a solid state drive, and we load the current operating system. So they're not this, the most fantastic, up to date, fantastic computers, but they're also $100. And so we've got about, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 notebooks, and probably another 10 desktops. And, we do them not because, um, it's a moneymaker. I mean, that's basically the cost of the drive and the labor to set it. We're just doing them for people who just don't have the money to have go into Micro Center and buy a $400 computer plus,
Right.
That's
So
awesome.
we have them available. If anybody wants to call, we'll be happy to, say what we got. You can pick, and the last person gets the slowest one.
Okay. I like it. 720-386-1510.
Yep.
If you need, well, shoot, anything worked on, your phone, your computer, if you're a business owner, you have an office, if this is your house, this guy knows his stuff. Brett, it's truly the common thread that we hear over and over and over. Is
Okay.
it is a good thing. I'm like, oh, you guys need to have Brett come. They're like, yeah, we know him. He was our house, 2 months ago, figuring out our stuff. I'm like, that's amazing. It's good to have someone who knows their stuff.
Right.
I'm just
One of my clients' father set something up, set up a call with me, and I talked to him for about 10 minutes, and I couldn't get him able to remote in to his computer, and he's explaining his problem, and I said, yeah, you're in Broomfield, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, I'll be there in about 40 minutes. And I just rode up to Broomfield because in the end, what needed to happen was he needed an adapter and a cable, and then all his problems went away.
oh, that's nice.
The alternative would be, okay, go to the store, get this and that, then come back, move the desk, put this here, do that. And, he's 70 plus, so he's going to be going, right, yeah, that's going to happen.
Right.
Right. That was nice of you to do that. Yeah, we go through that a lot. I'm like, what cable do we need? Can you write it down for me? Can you take a picture for me? Especially adapters. I mean, it's just, they all need to be universal for people like me.
Well, Apple and
really
Android are trying that. They're trying to standardize in the USB-C. Yeah.
Thank
So
you,
the
Apple.
phones and the devices. Android as well.
USB-C has been on Android for quite a while. I mean,
Right.
for Apple, it's always been a different one and
Well,
different.
they were Lightning up until the 14, I think.
And then they switched to the
13 was the
USB-C.
last Lightning.
Okay.
But they're on the 16. They'll come out with the 17, and I'm sure there will be something incredibly fantastic about it that'll make somebody go out and spend another $1,200 that they don't need to spend.
I'll try and refrain. I'm so kidding.
And yet there will still be 20 plus year olds lining up around the block for the new phone.
The
Of
new
course.
latest phone. Yeah.
I was in that line for an iPhone. Well, that's not true. My dad actually surprised me. But the second one I was in that, I was really excited about the first iPhone.
The last long line I waited in was for Jaws.
Oh, nice.
Good movie.
That was a good movie.
Good movie for its time. I think it's kind of boring right now.
Well, that's because sharks, Meg would be today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was a Meg fan, actually.
Oh man, I
I thought it
struggled.
was great.
In Jaws, it was, the big mouth in the back of the boat, as he's pulling it down, he throws a tank in and blows him up. And in Meg, the little girl standing at the, the big viewport, and, she doesn't know, but she walks away and you can see the teeth marks around the entire thing. It's like 25 feet tall.
I love the little dog, Pippin.
Yeah.
Pippin. And of course, the little dog has to survive. Pippin, and was in the second one. Okay, a little trivia. I know we have to jump off. What was the name of Jaws, the shark that they made? What was his name? Ooh, you're actually really close. Starts with the B. Good job,
Bill?
Buster.
Yeah.
What's-
I have an evil twin, Bob, so, I figured out.
Okay, that's really amazing. You almost got him. So a little, trivia about Jaws is it was this huge robot,
There's 3 of them.
essentially. Jaws? Well, yeah. They slowly got worse, in my opinion. But
No, there were 3
There were 3
different
robots.
in
Oh,
each
yeah.
film.
Yeah.
yeah, they kept and they would beach them. And so they'd have to make different ones. And I always thought that was really funny. You have a beach shark that, what do you do with it? I thought it was funny.
Shove a midget in it and call it C-3PO.
Wow.
or R2D2.
We're so close. All right, boys and girls. Well, we have had Brett here with us. You can look up his website. Please do. It's probably very secure. IT1, the number one, service.com. For anything that you need help with, you can buy blocks of time for your loved ones. It's a great Mother's Day is coming up. For all of these, I'm going to throw myself under the bus for the women that you love that don't really know technology and want to throw the computer out. They need help with their phones,
Or at
printers, or at you. I have been there too. You know your stuff. So go to it1service.com or call or text
Yep.
720-386-1510.
Yeah, you can't text the main number,
Oh,
but you can call.
But you can call it.
okay, call that number.
You can call it.
Yes.
You can go onto the website and sign up for an appointment.
Right.
Yeah,
No problem.
good. If you have an office and you're like, man, we are struggling with our devices and need some security, especially, get an expert.
Yeah,
'Cause,
and if
it's
you are concerned about your security, actually on our website on the front page you can do a security review.
Oh.
yeah, I saw that cybersecurity checkup for free.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And then we'll
Definitely do
tell
that.
you what you can address afterwards, and you get to make a choice based on informed decision.
I like it. it1service.com, cybersecurity checkup free. It's that big red box on the top there. Well, Brett, thank you. You are
Absolutely.
truly a wealth of knowledge. It's
Definitely.
pretty amazing.
Or at least something like that.
It's true. You've been at this for 3 or 4 decades now.
4+.
4+. Okay, we'll
4+.
stick with.
We'll
We can
stick
do
with that.
3+ too. Okay, however you want to do it.
3++. There you go.
And remember, if you need any notebooks, computer notebooks, not spiral or 3-hole,
Or desktops.
or desktops. Desktops. Yeah, you have quite a bit of equipment there that
Yeah,
you
it just-
restore and you sell. Just make it a lot better.
Sometimes
and
we
better.
give them away. It just depends.
Right.
I mean, if we got somebody who's they absolutely need something, for their kid or dog or whatever that and they don't have any money, we'll give them a system.
Right.
Okay, if your dog needs a computer,
Got it.
now it's time.
Love and marriage, love and.
Oh
Remember
God,
that?
I love that show. Yep.
And when the dog got the credit card.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He would know.
Yeah. Married with Children,
Oh, I
they
know.
got a credit card in the dog's name, so they just charged it all and maxed it all out and said, "Well,
And then said, "Yep,
dog
there you
did
go.
it.
yeah,
Says,
the dogs, pay it back, dog."
Please don't try this if you're listening.
yeah. And then the dog kept coming back as other dogs. The dog would die and he'd come back as a puppy.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I think
One
they
of
had
them.
like
That
3 different dogs.
Yep.
And the dog would talk.
Okay.
One of the greatest shows in history. Well, thank you very much, Brett. It's been such a pleasure, and looking forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely.
And definitely, if you need any help, any computer services, whether you're a business owner, just for personal use or anything like that, Brett Minzer, it1service.com, 720-386-1510. This has been a interview on K4CO. Make sure to keep listening, because starting in about 25 minutes, we have 1 solid hour of only Colorado artists on the K4CO radio rotation every single day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the evening. Was it Wednesday? It is Wednesday.
It is.
Have a great rest of the hump day, everybody.